Welcome into another episode of the My Two Bits Gator Football Podcast. I am Ben, joined as always by my partner in crime, or perhaps partner in misery this week, Mr. Randy. How you feeling, Randy? How's it going up there?
You really have to do that, B. It's okay. I get it. You know what, man? Maintaining, under the circumstances, maintaining, and that's all I can say. We're maintaining.
I hear you. I hear you. I know everybody, ourselves certainly included, is tired of losing to Georgia. Um, it's been a tough go with this team recently, obviously. But I think when we kind of break this down and look at it, it's going to be an interesting take that we get to go through this week, and I hope a little therapy as we like to have, right, and go through and do this, and I hope the same for everybody listening. So, with that said,
Oh
let's
yeah.
get right into it. As always, we'll take you through our intro here with our mission, our vision, and then the agenda for the pod. So, on My Two Bits, our mission is to provide factual analysis of all things Florida Gator football. Our vision is to have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film, and while we will certainly express opinion, that opinion should always be based with or backed up, with some type of fact. We will also evaluate strategy and tactics, our observation of player personnel decisions, and on the field execution. So, for our agenda, as always, we start off with our exciting plays segment, which is called Oh My, in honor of Mr. McHubert there. We will then proceed to our review of the offense with our Chomp segment. Then, next, we will go through defense in Gator Bait. Then we'll then get out our beefs and our qualms for the week in Visor Throw. Then we'll talk a little recruiting with the hatchling segment. And then we'll proceed to talk about how the culture of the team looked and how things are going in that regard in Pride of the Sunshine. Then we will do an officiating review with Move Back You Suck. And finally, we'll wrap things up with just kind of a state of the union for where the team is. We actually have a little something extra to throw into that segment tonight that I'm looking forward to. And then from there, we will play a Keep It or Pitch It for Arkansas this week, I guess I should say, sorry, and then wrap things up with our sign off. So, having said that, let's get it started right out of the box. Oh my! Let's talk about the positives. Let's talk about the good things, exciting plays we saw from this weekend. What you got, Randy? Talk to me. Talk to me about the good moments in this game, because there were a couple.
There were a couple. Agreed. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet for everyone. Uh, the first pass play to Trey. Now, was it necessarily an oh my play? Not really from the sense of the play, but as far as the tone it was trying to set, or at least
Yep.
it tried to set, right? I thought it was a really good play, really good design, well executed, and it was a really stiff punch to the mouth to get it started. So
Yep.
that obviously I thought that was going to set the tone for the rest of the game, change of plans. But either way, I think a great first play to start a game like this, a rivalry game. All right. Second oh my play is going to be the flea flicker, which ended with a
All right.
36-yard completion to Pearsall in the third quarter. It's really nice to see a little razzle dazzle executed well.
Yep.
That's
Agreed.
it. But no, it was nice to see it to get a little bit of momentum or somewhat of momentum back in the second quarter. Um, Another one, and this was interesting, but in the fourth quarter, Pearsall got a really nice pass out from Mertz, and it was a 30-plus yard pickup. But more particularly, Pearsall, and for me, this was an oh my, just because I know Ricky, as a senior, wanted to leave his mark on this game, and he couldn't as much. But he lowered his shoulder and trucked his defender in front of the Georgia sideline, really close to Kirby Smart. So hopefully
Nice.
Pearsall's going to say, hey, you see that there? I want that to be a little bit of an incentive, or remember that for next year, okay,
Yep.
when you guys come in to play this game again, because I won't be with you to go to battle. So anyways,
I
that was
like
just my
it.
thoughts on that.
I like
All
it.
right. And then the last oh my is not necessarily a play, but a series of plays. Trey, Eugene Wilson the third, tricky Trey. I'm not sure if any of y'all have noticed this or saw the caption, but 11 receptions in the game. most ever by a Florida freshman in a
Yep.
game.
Yep.
It's a shame more than half of them took place in the first quarter. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But
No, you're not
outside
wrong.
of that, yeah, outside of that, it was just really neat to see 11 receptions on the day for him, a record like that for amongst Florida receivers, but more particularly freshman Florida receivers. But anyways, those are my 4 oh my points on the docket for me, B. How about you?
So it's interesting. This might be the first time that we don't have one in common, interestingly enough. So
Whoa,
I only have three, but I have three different ones from those. So very interesting. So I like yours. I think all very well
gimme, yeah.
made points there. But yeah, I've got three different ones for you. So I have Trey on the first series too, but not the first play. I have that touchdown, buddy. That's what I've been waiting for. Get him in the middle of the field in space and watch him go. And man, it did not disappoint. That was special. Love watching this kid, man. Interesting thing that you started to see happening, or that was observed. Again, hard for us to see watching the TV broadcast, but I heard that kind of after that first drive, they were starting to bracket him. Doesn't shock me. You probably need to shut that guy down because he just torched you on the first drive, right? And of course, that's Georgia. They adjust, they do the right things, they do the smart things, and we obviously all know where it went from there. But man, love it, love it, love it. Can't say it enough. Please just stay healthy. That's all I got. Is just please stay healthy, especially for next
Sure.
year, because we are going to need him. We are going to need him, and he is going to be. He's just only going to get better. I mean, there's just no way around it. Kids like that, they don't typically digress. I mean, that's not normal. So that's number one. Number two, that Montreal run, 40 plus yards to start the fourth quarter. How nicely executed was that? The blocking on that was actually really
Yep.
good. It's a theme we're going to probably talk about here as it relates to the O line. We definitely have some not so good things to say about the O line tonight. However, got to give them credit where credit's due. The run blocking, really in general, but especially on that play, was beautiful. I mean, just blocked it out perfectly, and Montreal took a really nice angle, really kind of put the defender in a spot where he had to turn around and get on his heels, and he couldn't even catch him. So, I mean, great, great run there, really nicely done, really well executed all the way around. And my last one is one that I bet almost nobody noticed. McConkey's largest completion of the game, not the touchdown. This happened in the fourth quarter. It was a 51-yard gain, I believe, that he had on this play,
Oh,
right? It was where he got open
yep.
over the middle on 3rd and 11 and then just went off to the races. Did you happen
Yep.
to notice who tackled one of the fastest players on the field for Georgia? Because it was TJ Searcy from the defensive line. Ran him down. And this wasn't a screen pass. This was an over the middle play where he was wide open. Unfortunately, that's another issue. We'll get to that. But wide open, running unimpeded downfield, could have even possibly go all the way for the touchdown. Who comes in and makes the tackle to save it? The D lineman, TJ Searcy. Phenomenal effort play. Absolutely blew me away when I saw 19 come down there and tackle him. I was like, excuse me? What? I was absolutely floored. Phenomenal, phenomenal effort in a game that at that point was over. Love it. No quit. Outstanding. Really good stuff. So those are my three call outs for Oh My this week. Really did think we had some decent plays on film. And I think there is stuff to build on coming out of this game. Before we go any further, I want to make the point that, and I think this is where we really kind of have to, you know, take a step back and kind of put ourselves in our place. And we'll talk more about this as we go. But realistically, there are not a ton of scenarios here where we beat Georgia, right? I'm not going to say it wasn't possible. We talked about it being possible this year. But at the end of the day, I know we wanted a closer game. I know we wanted a more competitive game. No question. We all did. But what are we likely coming out in the win-loss column when we end this game? 5-3. Almost, I won't say definitively, but it was very probable, right? It was not likely that we were going to beat Georgia here. So at the end of the day, however it pans out, whatever the end result is, And I know there are some things that matter in how you lose. I understand that. I'm not saying it doesn't. But at the end of the day, the win-loss was probably going to say 5-3 when we came out of this game. So I think it's important that we don't use this game as like a measuring stick, because I don't think Georgia's the team we need to be measuring up against right now. Give it a couple of years, keep this recruiting going. Absolutely. Right now, nah. Talent gap is just way too wide. And again, something we'll talk about a little more later on. So I think that's really important to kind of keep everybody in perspective on that as much as best we possibly can, right? I know it's hard. I know we don't want to lose. Believe me, I feel the same way. That goes without saying. And I was dejected after this game too, no question. But I think when you go back and really think about it and look at it, that's really important to keep, somewhere in our minds going forward, and really not use this game as the evaluation meter for the season, right? Because it really never should have been. It really never should have been. So there we go on that. So with that, we'll move on. Let's talk some offense. As always, we'll start with our two statistics we look at, quarterback rating on the NFL scale, and then also yards per carry minus the quarterbacks, right? We take the quarterbacks out because sack yardage goes against them, even though technically there were no sacks against Carson Beck, though I saw one, but whatever. We'll leave that alone. We take their yardage out regardless, because we don't think it's like we talked about. It's not really a carry, right? We want to know what yards per actual like running play is, right? So that's why we do it that way. So to that end, Mertz's QBR on the NFL scale was 111.15. So again, as we've said every week, anything over 100 is good. So another solid performance by Mertz. Nothing wrong with the way he played at all. Yet again, high quality quarterback play from him. I grant you, going deep could have been better, but I think we're back to an issue where I don't think the guys are really open. And even if they were, the play took too long and he was under way too much heat, right? These are the problems that we've seen time and time again this year. So again, nothing wrong with the way he played. The numbers bear that out. I think he was pretty solid considering. Yards per carry is borderline shocking. When you take out Mertz's sack yardage and his yards in total, you end up with a yards per carry for Florida of 7.05 yards, over 7 yards a carry against Georgia's defense. We'll take that, folks. That is solid, solid performance there. I know the game maybe didn't reflect that, but it wasn't like that all came in garbage time either. Yes, Montrell's big run helped, no question. But even without that, we were still looking pretty decent in our yards per carry in this game. It really wasn't bad. So, having said that, let's talk about where we did have issue. O-line blocking, O-line pass blocking more specifically. Already mentioned it. Not sure if it was really any worse than it has been, to be honest, in this game, or if this is just what it looks like against a really good team, right? This might be really what we've been seeing. It's just this is how it gets exposed, right? Regardless of whether or not that's the case, if it was worse, wasn't worse, whatever, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough, right? The pass blocking, the tackles just aren't quick enough. Got beaten by a speed rush just over and over and over and over again. Just whipped around the edges on these guys all game long. That's got to get better. I don't exactly know how it gets better. I don't know that some of the personnel, i.e. Damian George, are capable of doing much better. I will say a couple of times it did look like he was maybe off on his assignment, like he was looking inside when he should have been looking outside. I did see that appear to be the case on replay, but it's hard to know, right? It's hard to know. I don't know all the rules for the play and the scheme and the design and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, very difficult to evaluate that. But clearly it wasn't good enough, right? Mertz was under the gun all night long, and that's just not something that's going to be a sustainable model for success, right? I liked some of the creativity early on. Billy's catching a lot of flack for some of the trick plays that didn't work, i.e. that fourth down, right? But I liked some of the creativity and the touches for Trey, right, early. But then we kind of got conservative again, right? Trey stopped getting the ball. Now I understand they may have bracketed him in coverage like we talked about, but we've shown all year we can get Trey the ball in different ways, right? Pop passes, reverses. I know the one reverse didn't work, but that was actually a reverse to Ricky. Putting him in the putting him in the backfield as a running back. We did that, right? And all of it has worked really, really well. And we start the game off with these great series with him, and then, oh well, we're done with that. Why? Well, I don't know. I got nothing there. We um, definitely kind of stopped with a lot of that stuff, and that nasty C word came into play again, right? That C word is conservative, folks. Conservative play calling at its finest when we got put in a jam in the first half. After that trick play failed, Billy bottled it up big time. We went very conservative, very much, back to the fundamentals of his offense, right? The quick passes in the flat, screens, running plays, right? Again, I don't have a problem with running the football if you're doing it effectively and it's at a time that makes sense. But man, we very much just kind of went, it was like, oh, okay. And not sure that it really would have mattered that much with the way the O line was blocking or not blocking in the first half. But regardless, it didn't help. It didn't help, that's for sure. So that's actually all I've got on the offensive evaluation. I mean, that pretty much sums it up in my mind, for the most part. So I'll turn it over to you. What you got, bud? Talk to me about the chomp.
That sums it up for the most part. I'm glad that you're able to have a lot of reservations there in lieu of the lack of some of the output. So that's
Yeah.
my only thing. I think you did very well. So good job there. Good
Well,
job
thank
there.
you.
I commend you.
Yeah, it's
um,
not always easy when you see how we produce some things on the field on Saturday. But I really was encouraged by that yards per carry when I pulled it. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
yeah, true yards per carry, right? Yeah,
Yep.
agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. So I am Gator Nation. I am in a pickle, right? Between a rock and a hard place. This is what's tough about the offensive review for me in this Chomp segment. Our boy Graham Cracker, 25 for 34. Just another 73.5% completion game. Okay.
Yep.
He did okay. And I thought what was interesting was, so I was there in Jacksonville, right? Ruckus environment. It was what it was. When I went back and watched the film and I watched the replay, it was interesting. Gary Daniel said something very interesting, and I actually agreed with him this one time
Oh my
because
God.
I never
Hold
do.
on. Stop the presses. You agreed with Danielson?
Exactly. And the reason why is because Danielson said Graham Mertz has been the constant force for the Gators this year. He's been great. He's done this. He's done everything they need to do. But he has to be a bit extra for the Gators to be close, competitive, and even potentially upset the number one team in the nation. And as far as the extra, um, it's a shame to say, just could not be that extra. But Graham's still a good game, right? How can you complain about 74% completions, over 111 QBR? I mean, it is what it is. Here's the main thing I saw when I look at the offensive line and the issues that I saw there. So I'm going to start at the offensive line. I look at Austin Barber. I know he's had some injuries this year. He's been out a couple of games, but he's back fairly healthy. Richie Leonard. Kingsley obviously struggled with the ankle. He went down later in the game. Micah Meskua. Damian George. I look at that line. This line has been interchanged in and out the season, right? So we have on there, we have a couple of juniors and we have a couple of sophomores. Okay. I look at the Georgia defensive line. Okay. And this is kind of where I'm getting at. Senior, and redshirt sophomore. Georgia's got a very well-established defensive line. And our offensive line, as much as we tried, or don't get me wrong, some efforts were not as good, especially noted by Mr. George. But it was just one of those things where they could not match up. It's the number one team in the nation. I know we were hoping for a miracle. We were hoping for some wonderful things to happen. We were hoping for something to be pulled out there at Everbank Field, but just it couldn't do it. Trey's touches. Trey got the majority of touches first quarter. After that, I get it. He got bracketed, but I tell you what, if it took 2 weeks to develop that first drive of the game, You mean to tell me that there was nothing else after that? We talked about this before. Tactical versus strategic. I get what that first drive was, but after that first drive, it seemed like we had no other mission, no other vision in mind other than we're just going to stick to more conservative measures. That's a tough part too on the fourth down play. I get it. You want to do a little razzle dazzle, but the thing about Georgia, and we saw it, even though they have not been as fast in the past, but Georgia's edges, look at the speed, which brings me to my next point, is we did a lot of running east-west, a lot of running. Now, with the speed that we have, not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm telling you, Trey got chased down on a couple of those end rounds. Ricky got chased down a couple of those end rounds, a couple of those sweeps. And it was really, really tough to get that edge set. And that was the tough thing, too. I felt like in this game, it was going to be one on the line. And based off of that, we needed to punch them in the mouth on the line and get them on their heels, not on their toes. And unfortunately, they were on their toes a lot of the game. The offense got into a really, really, really tough era there. And, it got to the point where it just felt like, holy smokes, there's almost as if the flow is broken. Graham, after that fumble, just looked so dejected. And it was really, really tough. And you can almost feel the air. For me, you can almost feel the air, just all the momentum and energy come out of the stadium at that point. And that's what the toughest thing for me was. It felt like from an energy standpoint, and don't get me wrong, I know Graham has tried a lot to be a cheerleader and a leader and do all these other things, but even he looked so dejected at the end of that first quarter going into the second quarter that I felt like it was almost as if something he couldn't just come back from. And that was the toughest thing to see this offense sputter. I mean, the thing for me is it just sputtered, right?
Yep.
It just absolutely sputtered. We had one touchdown, right? Before the fourth quarter, we had one touchdown in 9 offensive drives. What? That's just unacceptable, right? Especially at this stage of the game. And I get it, folks. Number 1 defense. Sure, I get it. But anyways, that's all I got to say about Chomp. It was just really tough to see.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of tough stuff. And I think I think you make an interesting point when you look at Mertz and his I've never seen him look beaten down like that. Like he hasn't had that in it. And we'll talk more about that obviously in the Pride of the Sunshine segment, but I think it's a really interesting point, and the team kind of seemed to follow suit. They really followed their leader on that one, as typically happens, right? But it really was discouraging, obviously, and I get why it was discouraging for him. I do think they kind of probably felt like they had to play pretty mistake-free football, and obviously a turnover on downs in your own 34, and then a fumble, right around the 20, I believe it was. That is far from mistake-free. That is far from mistake-free. So
the other thing to add,
go,
is you made a comment about the running game, and I for the record agree to take the quarterbacks out of it. But one stat I thought was really interesting: at home this season, the Gators are averaging 5.3 yards a rush and about 209 yards a game at home in the Swamp. Mm-hmm. On the road, 1.8 yards a rush and 51 rushing yards a game. Interesting.
That is interesting. And we did do better than that this game as far as rushing yards and yards per carry, even if you left the QB yards in, right? Which is what that stat is referring to. So we were much better than our averages on both those fronts in this game. So that should go into account. However, you're right. The run game on the road has not been there. That's definitely a point well taken when you look at how things have gone so far. So with that, let's transition over. Give me your thoughts on the defensive side of the football. Not our finest performance for sure. So what do you got for me in Gator Bait, bud?
Man, and that's the thing that this episode is really tough for me because had a great drive up there to Jacksonville, had a great time tailgating, saw some great people, had some great conversations, and you're just hoping, right? You're just hoping, like, man, what if this could happen, right? They're out without a couple of key players, not just Brock Bowers, but outside of that, it didn't matriculate the way we thought it would. We came in allowing the fewest sacks in the SEC, and yes, I agree with you. We at least got one sack on Carson Beck. I felt like his jersey was way too clean, way too clean.
Agreed.
Right. The other thing that's tough is I get it. The way we started the season, this was a top 10 defense, top 15 defense. I get it as competition has grown, as the opponent has grown, especially with the gauntlet of the SEC schedule. We've slipped a little bit, but the other thing that's kind of tough to read off is the fact that we've allowed 30 points in 3 of the last 4 games.
Yep.
Really, really hard to read that off. I couldn't get an exact number just because of the various sources, right? But based off of that, it looks like I read anywhere between 8 to 10 missed tackles. Now, again, I remember us saying if we can keep tackles under 10, we're in good shape. But in this game in particular, there were several instances where it felt like a missed tackle led to a very significant play or significant yardage to the point where it was very difficult to bounce back from, right? Yep. For example, on Georgia's first possession, you had Castell and Mitchell miss on the same play.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know?
Yeah, and I think either one of them makes that tackle, and it's either a loss or no gain.
I really do. Yeah, exactly. Right. When you look at the start of the second quarter on Georgia's scoring play, Castell missed a tackle the play before, right? But then a very, very bad angle by Scooby, and I think you know what I'm talking about, where the running back just came right around the corner. The edge was essentially sealed off, and that put him up 17.
What edge?
Well, yeah, exactly.
If you're talking to Florida, we didn't set any edges.
No edge. But that's the thing, right? Georgia just they showed speed, but also they showed a lot of discipline when it came to their blocking. You know, the other thing that was really tough to watch is I felt like for the first time in a while, or maybe ever, I looked to the sideline and AA did not have the energy for whatever reason that I thought he would have, especially in this game. I get it's his first Florida Georgia game, but I felt like for whatever reason, his energy level was not up maybe as much as it should be. No idea. But
interesting.
I just felt like it wasn't there. Not especially when the guys came into the huddle. I'm not sure if based off what everyone saw on TV, it showed different, but to me, it just was not there. This defense just got punched and punched and punched and pushed and punched. And the one thing I hate seeing our defense take, and I'll say this lastly, is getting stiff-armed. Right? And I get it. He's quick, he's shifty, is this, that, but Ladd McConkling, oh my goodness gracious. Some of the hits that he gave our defense and the stiff arms that he gave, it was just really tough to watch. Really tough to watch. Princely, I get it. He had a really good game overall with a lot of pressures, but it's really tough, man, because I said it earlier. I felt like Beck's shirt was way too clean. I know we at least got one on him, but his shirt was way too daggum clean.
Agreed.
Right.
And I think that's a combination problem, right? Guys were open too quickly, so any pass rush we did have couldn't get there, and then the issues with the pass rush, right? It was kind of two-sided and kind of contributed on both sides to the porousness that we saw, I think. It was tough.
It was, and Kimber I thought was going to have a really good game, a bounce back game, but he got beat really bad by McConkey and a couple other plays there. Now Jason Marshall, I know we've harped on him a couple times, and yes, he 5-star talent, and he should be playing better. He had probably the best back-to-back play sequence he's ever had, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah. But in the
really good.
but in the first half, he was really awful in the first half, though. I have that as a call out on here. So,
but he was right. He was.
Yeah.
I know, but that's the thing. It's like, why can't you be? It's almost like, I tell you what. It's almost like, if anyone remembers the movie Bad Boys, Martin Lawrence, Will Smith, before he went crazy. At the end of that movie, when Martin drives Will's Porsche, it's so funny because Martin's actually, they're chasing down Fouché, right? And Will Smith goes, "Wow, it seems like Gunshot has improved your driving skills." And he says, "From now on, that's how you drive." I want to look at Jason Marshall and go, "From now on, that's how you play."
Yeah.
Every play.
I couldn't agree more. I have something very much similar to that stated in there, but I love the analogy there. That's good stuff.
I'm like, from now on, that's how you play. And I don't know what else to say, but it just seems like it's hot, it's cold, it's snow, it's sometimes in, sometimes out, and the consistency is what's kind of eking me right now when it comes offense and defense, but more so this defense, because we've got some really good talent on defense. We have some really special players out there. But at the end of the day, I will say, when you look at the personnel that we're putting on the field, you know what? You'll get Tyreek Sapp, right? Sophomore. Cam Jackson, junior, right? You got Banks as a freshman. Princely's a junior, right? Scooby's a sophomore. Shamar, I felt so bad. Shamar, the pregame warmups got hurt, and he out at the end of the game, and hopefully he can make a good recovery here for this coming Saturday. Nunnery, junior. Marshall, junior. Mitchell, sophomore. Hill, junior. Castell, freshman. Kimber, junior.
Yep.
And not to mention,
a lot of
freshmen, a lot of youth. That's all I got. I'm rambling. I'm gonna cut it, but that's all I got for Gator Baby.
All good, man. And I hear your pain on this, right? And again, I think it's very easy to be in that place. And I'm not saying that I'm not to an extent. I just think, like I was saying earlier, that it's just not the game, in my opinion, that I'm going to lose that much sleep over, right? We're just not there yet. And again, talk a little more about it later when we talk about talent composite. But anyway, let's go through and look at the stats here for the defense, right? So we talked about Mertz's rating. Beck's rating was pretty impressive. It was a 129.32. Very, very solid rating. I believe the only one we've given up higher was actually Rattler last week, or 2 weeks ago. So that is not a good trend to have been giving up a pretty good rating in that regard, or a pretty bad rating for the other team in most cases, or less than great anyway. And now 2 games in a row, that's pretty excellent numbers coming out of the opposing quarterback. Not what you want to see, definitely. So there was issue there. As for yards per carry, again, without the quarterback's numbers in there, because whether it was a sack or a tackle for loss or whatever, he had negative yardage as a part of it. So taking him out, we come up with 5.46 yards per carry. Not great, but not bad, right? It's under 6 against a good team, very talented team. Obviously had some good backs, that were playing against us this week. And I'm not going to get mad about less than 5.5 yards carry. I'm not against that team. That's okay, right? That's really kind of okay. Didn't get tore up there. I do think, to your point, missed tackles were a big part of that. We couldn't get their lead back down. I can't, his name just went right out of my head right now, but we couldn't get him down. He was very shifty, and I think credit to him on some of that, but also sometimes I'm actually, maybe not sometimes, most of the time, we don't play physical enough. We're just not hitting with enough veracity. And I think a lot of that comes from, again, youth. guys not exactly sure where they're supposed to be. Maybe I think in our case, instead of not knowing where they should be, which has been the case previously for us, I think this year it's like they think they know where they're supposed to be, but there's just still that uncertainty. And I think that really comes with experience. Princely actually called that out after the game. He had a quote as saying that, experience really matters. And I didn't even realize that until I had experience, right? So, like, really interesting quote by him there to kind of say, yeah, this does matter, right? This does make a difference to know where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. And man, he showed that because he may have not had a credited sack in this game, but holy cow, 10 tackles. Leading tackler was a D lineman. Whoa, that's kind of impressive, man. That's kind of impressive. You don't see that every game, right? Now, obviously, Shamar probably would have had more if he hadn't been hurt. But at the end of the day, 10 tackles for Princely is pretty ridiculous. So really, really good game from him. And I think you hear him talk about that after the game, and he sees the potential here, right? Even though he won't be here to see it when it comes to fruition, I think he sees the potential in it. So, still a lot of things that we can take away that were good. However, I'm going to start with some things that weren't. So, bad gap discipline by the linebackers on running plays again, right? The gap discipline there from those guys, especially when they're running the old fabled counter play, right? It continues to be an issue. Now, if Georgia didn't run a ton of it, when they did run it, it was effective because we're not in the right gap with our linebackers, and it continues to be an issue. Scooby in particular really, really, really seems to struggle with that. But we had more than that issue with Scooby this game. He had bad angles taken multiple times. He failed to set the edge, as we already discussed repeatedly, right? He was the guy that
Yeah.
needed to get out there and force that play back inside. Yeah, didn't even attempt to do it. And then the angle he took to get him without setting the edge was bad. So Scooby is not doing well lately. I'm sorry to say it, but what we're seeing out of him, it does not even resemble, quite frankly, what we were seeing from him in the first half of the year. I mean, he was pretty doggone good. He was real good against
Yeah.
Utah, and then he was still pretty good in Tennessee. He was pretty solid. Played really well, and then it's like that Kentucky game came along. He didn't know where to go in that game, couldn't fill the right gap, and ever since he's been like second guessing himself out there or something. I don't know. We talked about it already. It's really got to get better. We need him, especially if James is not going to be playing or isn't going to be playing 100%. Scooby becomes all the more important. So, got to get better. Um, Jason Marshall, as already discussed, first half just got beaten all over the field by McConkley. I mean, just absolutely wrecked on a couple of plays with routes that I didn't think were anything particularly special, right? I mean, he ran them, I guess, appropriately, and Marshall just kind of didn't cover him. Really, really not great look at all. Then you come into the second half, and it's like somebody, kicked his butt in the locker room or something because he looked like a different dude. Guy made plays all over the place, excellent in coverage. Those corner blitzes were fantastic. Knocked down a couple of passes on them. Made really nice tackle on a play. I mean, Marshall looked like, okay, there you go. Had a great pass defended where he knocked the ball away out in space. I mean, I was like, this is the guy. This is who I need to see. Please keep doing that. None of the other. All of this. Thank you. As you said, this
Yep.
is how you drive. I
Yep.
got to see more of it. That's how Marshall should have been playing this entire season. We have seen, quite frankly, not much of it here and there, little specks. But I will say that second half was pretty darn good. So I don't know if some kind of light switched for him. I sincerely hope it did because we really need more of that play from him going forward, especially with some of the uh, lacking, I guess that you'd say, in some of the other pieces of that secondary, right? Kimber, again, not a good game. I was also not particularly a fan of the blitzes that were used in this game. I'm all for blitzing, as I think I called out. I want to see more blitzing, right? Not necessarily against Georgia for the record, but but I want to see more blitzing in general. That was AA's calling card, and I really feel like it's almost been underutilized. But my biggest problem, as I again mentioned last week when we did the bye week episode, is it's not surprising anybody when he's blitzing. You kind of know it's coming. And when a team knows it's coming, it's easier to account for. It's easier to put max protect in. And there's just not a lot of creativity. I feel like whenever he was doing anything creative, when you had guys like standing up on the line and you didn't know who was coming, it was a simulated pressure. It wasn't an actual one. So I'm really not sure what to do about that? Obviously, I can't do anything, but like, I don't know how we get it better, but it needs to get better. And I don't know what the formula is there, but I feel like if there's a guy who can figure it out, it ought to be AA because he's like the blitz king. So we got to get that better. We gotta find some ways to be a little more creative. Having said all that stuff, I did think we made some good halftime adjustments in this game. I thought we were significantly better on defense in the second half, especially against the run. The run defense was vastly improved in the second half from where we were in the first half. So again, you see AA, he makes adjustments, he makes tweaks, he tries different things if something's not working. These are the things that you want from your D coordinator in the long run, right? Get the talent in there, coach the talent up, the scheme's got to be right. If that scheme's not right, it doesn't matter how much talent you have on the field, right? If the players are being coached into the wrong positions or told to do things that don't make any sense, right? Grant them. It really doesn't matter. it really doesn't matter.
Excuse you.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, still getting over my cold there. It really doesn't matter if they're not being schemed, to be put in the right position. And again, I see that happening for the most part. It really just, again, comes down to execution in a lot of cases. So that's all I've got for defense. So I think we'll leave it at that. Definitely not our finest performance. Definitely some things we'd like to see get better. But also, I think, at the end of the day, still signs that things are headed in the right direction. I just saw the stat a minute ago you mentioned all the time. We're not quite 100 better anymore. We're like 97 yards better per game than we were at this point last year in the season. You can't
Yep.
really get mad at that. You can't really get mad at that. That's significant improvement. So we continue to do better. We've just got to get just a little bit better than we are now, but we're closer, and that's important. So moving on, visor throw. All right, let's get it going. Let's get this hat dirty. Start off with an oldie but a goodie. Play
Yeah.
design, play design, play design. Very much reverted back to the mean in this game. I already mentioned it, got conservative, but even just in general, we were not throwing the same wrinkles in the passing game that I feel like we saw 2 weeks ago against South Carolina. Um, in my opinion, at this point, this is the deciding factor for me. No questions asked. I want a new OC in the offseason, period. I'm done with it. I'm going to keep calling for it until it happens. I don't really care if there are better games ahead as we close out this season. It doesn't really matter to me because if this is what you're going to do against Georgia, I'm done. I don't want to see it anymore, period. Simple as that. Love Billy. Think he's doing a lot of really good things. That just isn't his strong point in this particular setup. And I think we've got to move on and find another alternative. So hopefully we do that. I've heard some things he say that makes me think he's leaning towards it. Love that he's actually already started to evaluate guys. Think that's great. But then in the flip side, he says other things where it makes you think that he's just, biding his time until he gets his players in. And we'll talk about that a little more later on. So I don't know what to make of it, but I definitely want to see it. At this point, I don't need to see any more. Give me an OC, give up those duties, and be a better head coach as a result of it. That's where I'm at. So that's number one. Number two, playing with pride. Playing with pride. We really lost this from things that I saw when we got down and the way that second quarter started. I'm not going to go as far as to say we quit, but we were not pushing as hard visibly, especially on defense, actually. I saw guys just jogging after plays they got beat on, and certainly not playing free or smart in a lot of ways. Not a good look here. Again, something we'll talk more about in the culture segment, but this was probably the closest that I've seen to saying that the team gave up a bit. I've never really seen a Napier team do that. I've made a point of mentioning that many times. I don't know I'll go that far because it did get a little better in the second half, a little better. Um, but this was not a great look. That second quarter was just a bad look, and not something you want to see really ever. So hope that gets better. Hope we don't see that again. Fourth down play call, not the trick play, but rather late in the third quarter. Had a fourth down, could have converted, could have still technically tried to make a game out of it at that point. Really was pretty much over. I believe it was 33-7 or 36-7 or something at that point. It was pretty well done. However, we had an opportunity to convert a fourth down. It was in Georgia territory this time. and we throw it out in the flat to ETN on 4th and 3. And he gets tackled, and he doesn't make the play. That is what you call a conservative play call that is just flat out not going to work against Georgia. This is a very talented team, as everybody is aware. I don't care if it was one-on-one in the flat. ETN's, so you're going to coin flip a 4th down? I'll give you ETN beats that guy half the time, but the other half the time he doesn't. So you're going to coin flip a 4th down and 3 when you still theoretically have a chance to get back in the game. No, not okay. Terrible, terrible play call. I was pretty livid when I saw that one. That is just not good enough, and it's just way too conservative. That's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So for me, that one was really just flat out unacceptable. So anyway, last but not least, I'm gonna call out Dan Mullen, and not for his pick of the Florida Georgia game, by the way. So for those of you who don't know, he did pick us to win. I'm gonna call out Dan Mullen for his lack of recruiting. So, as Kirby joked after the game, he didn't like to recruit, right? That was his comment about Dan. And I think you can see proof of that in something I'm about to read you. So here are the stats. Here are the stats from On3 consensus ranking, right? So this is ranking all the different recruiting systems in together. And their grades out for the current teams of Florida and Georgia, specifically at D-line and edge rusher, and then also at O-line. So we'll start with D-line and edge recruits. So these grades are on a 0, I guess, to 100 scale, right? Is the overall scale of this. Theoretically, you can go over 100 if you're like a once in a generation talent, but we're not getting into all that. So, average D-line or edge recruit playing on Florida currently 90.277. It's respectable. It's not a bad number. Pretty legit when you start looking at that stuff. Georgia 93.184. That is basically like really close to all 5 stars is what that grades out to. Pretty darn close to it. About a mix of maybe, I don't know, 60, 66, 33 type of thing, 67, 33 in favor of the 5 stars over the 4 stars. Really, really excellent stuff. So that's number one. Significant gap there. I have trouble even reading this. Average offensive line recruiting grades per On3 consensus. Florida, 86.62. That is not good. And Georgia, 91.9. Over a 5-point differential in the quality of offensive line talent that has been recruited on this team. So both of those are pretty significant gaps, but that offensive line gap is nothing short of massive. And there's your problem. When you really want to look at this game and how it all panned out and everything else, could we have kept it closer? Could we have played better? All those things, absolutely. Would it have mattered? Probably not. Because at the end of the day, when you lose the talent battle by those kind of margins, good luck. It's going to take a once in a, I won't say miracle, but man, you're going to have to play one heck of a game. And frankly, Georgia's going to have to screw up. And they didn't. That's what I got for visor throw. It's pretty dirty. It's going to need to go to the dry cleaner. Where you at, buddy?
Yeah, I think you're going to need a couple attempts there. All the Febreze or OxyClean in the southeast. One of our points was very, very similar, but I'll get to it. Boy, this is hurtful to read. Sorry, Gator Nation. My notes are causing me a little bit.
It ain't easy. It ain't easy, but this is why we do it, right? Get it out in the open, talk about it, right? This is why we do it.
Right, Goose Faba. And you're right. You know what? This game is not, they're number one in the nation for a reason. They've won a certain number of games. I'm not going to say it straight for a reason. Fine. Okay, I get it. But at the same time, I just wanted a more competitive, more bulldog of a game. No pun intended. Ha ha. First visor throw.
Careful with that one.
I know. First visor throw, allowing 23 points in 7 minutes of game time.
Yeah, it's
why The face. Oh my good Lord. It was almost as if it was a flashback to last year where we ended going into halftime and it was 28-3. It's like, what? This is not happening again. This is not happening again. Since the 66-yard opening drive, right? The next 5 consecutive yards or drives, sorry, 3 total yards, net 3 yards. Turnover on downs, punt block. Really? And that's where I felt like going back to what you mentioned earlier. Yeah, going back to what you mentioned, I felt like that's where it's almost as if all the air just got deflated and we felt it in the stadium. And that's where you saw a little bit of dragging, more jogging, more helmet down. And anyways. Again, talent gap, recruiting gap, program rebuild, culture rebuild, personnel rebuild, all those things. I get it. Having that been said, the Gators, 8 straight losses against AP #1 teams. 8 straight. Last win back in 2008, taking down the Crimson Tide. Okay.
Ouch.
Yeah. My next point, third quarter, 4th and 3, the out to ETN. So I have a little issue with the out. I have a bigger issue with the fact of, if you're in that kind of situation, what do we talk about? Situational football. Here are the X's and O's. Get to the stick. If you look at where ETN ran, and when you look at where he got the ball, and then where he was eventually tackled within 1 yard, he was 3 yards short of the line of game. Yep. Anyone knows if you're going to go for it, third down, especially fourth down, know where the stick is.
Right. And don't throw it short of the stick.
Bingo. Run to the stick. Work back, help your quarterback out if you have to, but recognize where in Sam Hill you are on the football field. Okay. Next point. Oh boy, this pains me. We've been beaten by Georgia 20 plus points in 3 straight seasons.
Ow.
And like my good friend Forrest would say, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that hurts. That does hurt.
It does. It does. This is kind of a duo, and again, he's been really good for us all year. And I hate to even say this, but this is one of those. It's almost like the play out to ETN on 4th down. I get it. Damian George let Walker go right around him. Literally, just walked. He let Walker walk right around him to force that fumble on Mertz. But I'll tell you what, Graham, you should have felt him coming. And Graham, don't wiggle around that ball on one hand. A little bit more discipline, 2 hands on the ball, or guess what? Get the Sam Hill out of there quicker. I thought that was a simple thing that we had gotten past from a discipline standpoint on Graham's end, because he has been responsible with the football, limiting turnovers, but that one was just really bad, right? Just everything. Again, Gary Danielson, just the worst that could have happened did happen for 4 straight series, right?
Yep.
And then last thing, you made a comment to it earlier, B, physicality.
Yeah.
Like I said, when we're on defense, I hate getting stiff-armed. I hate getting trucked. We should be delivering those blows. We should be delivering those hits. And I just felt like sometimes we don't do it. The discipline might be good. This might be good. Some of the scheming might be good. But guess what? From a physicality standpoint, it's almost as if, hey, the Gators, they're rebuilding. There's a lot of youth. There's a lot of energy. There's some speed. There's this, that, and the other. Great, but no one's really afraid to play us, right? Because from a physicality standpoint, we don't have that presence that's there.
Agreed.
And then last and final point. Jason Marshall is in the end zone returning kicks. Now, none of them were returnable. That was what it was. But I'm going to go back to something you mentioned a few weeks back. The last exciting player we had on special teams to return kicks, whew, I'm sure we all wish we had Brandon Powell back there. But if we're not going to use Gene or Mizell, they're kind of fast.
Can we which I don't know why I don't know why we don't use them. But yeah,
okay.
Continue.
I get it. They're young. They got to have their hand over the football. They got to protect it. But can we have them back there create something? Create something. Energy. Stir it up. Like my good friend Will Ferrell would say, it's provocative. We got to get them going, right? That's provocative. Do something. Oh, that's right. We don't have a special teams coach. We have a court. No, not a court. It's an analyst. Okay.
Analyst. Yeah.
That's it for Advisor Throw B. That's it.
Yeah, no, good call out on special teams. I left it alone, and I probably gave them a pass that I shouldn't have, because we've seen it all year, and it just continues to rear its head, whether it is, stuff on kick returns. And because, I noticed Georgia kept kicking the ball to the right because they knew it was Marshall over there because they didn't want to go to ETN, which I don't blame them. But what's Marshall going to do on a kick return? He ain't going to do anything. He's going to fair catch it like he did, So what are we doing there? If you got a guy back there with ETN that's going to just fair catch it, put somebody else back there. Come on, I mean, at least give him the option for having some kind of return be in play. Anyway, I'm right there with you. And then of course the block punt, just really, I mean, I'm not sure who blocked that, because there were 3 guys in the backfield that could have done it. Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't know if we could have blocked that thing worse. It was terrible. Terrible.
Yep.
Yeah, really, really not okay. So fair point to call out special teams for sure. So with having said that, let's move it along. Let's keep the show rolling. We're done. Our visors are all messed up. They were white, now they're dark brown, and we'll have to get them cleaned up, and hopefully they won't get as dirty next week. I certainly hope not, but we shall see. So, all right, moving along. Hatchlings. Let's talk some recruiting. Obviously, we had the big news on this last week when we talked to McCray, and that's still kind of holding everything together right now, right? Getting that really big recruit. I did actually read an article right before we started talking about Mekhi Burrow, right, who you've been making a lot of conversation around. Interesting to see that he's headed back for yet another game. He'll be there for Arkansas, and then maybe again coming back for Florida State. It's already being talked about. He was at this game watching the Florida-Georgia game. So interesting stuff going on with him. Again, I know he's only a 3-star, but to your point, that is a big fella, and I would not necessarily mind having him if, I'm going to say an if here because I don't know, if his feet are quick enough. Because I don't, Damien George is big too, and I don't need another big dude out there who, can't cover an edge. Now, in fairness, I don't necessarily know that he would be playing tackle, and I think George is probably better suited at guard. We just don't have a tackle to play out there. So I will give George a little bit of a pass on that one. He's probably not playing the position he would best play in this offense. But having said all of that, Mekhi, I hope you got some quicks, even though you're a big boy. Because that's what we're going to start having to have when we see these guys. We really need the combination of both the quickness with the feet and the hands and the size, right? We need both. And so clearly Billy thinks he's got it. I trust Billy to recruit offensive linemen. By all means, guy recruited Osiris Torrance to Louisiana, for crying out loud. That dude was amazing. So I trust him. I trust his personnel judgments pretty much across the board. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's pretty much all we've got for recruiting, other than we did have several at this game. I hope we didn't hurt our chances too much. I know I did hear or see a couple articles where I don't think we did. A lot of recruits talking about how it can be turned around pretty quickly, right? They see, and they kind of, I think, maybe want to be a part of that turnaround. So in some ways, maybe it's not a bad thing at all, right? But I do wonder with a few guys that might be a little on the fence. They see that performance and they kind of go, ugh, I hope that's not the case too much. So we'll see what happens. What do you got for hatchlings, bud?
No, I echo. We got the big news last week. That's great. outside of that, yeah, Makai, hey, regardless of what happened, if he felt homesick, this, that, and the other, at 6'6", 355, based off the film that we saw, it seemed, and it's hard because he's playing against kids that are, I don't know, my size. No, but it seems like he's got quick feet, so that's a good thing. I think the other thing to note is, and Gator Nation, you might know this, but DJ, he's coming early, right? And if Mr. Lagway comes early and with the scout team, he lands in Gaines, Vegas, right? Closer to December, early December. That's only going to be a great thing with continuity and moving forward. And depending on what Graham does next year, depending on the QB battle that will ensue, the sooner he can step foot on campus, the better. The better for everyone.
Yep.
The better for the team. And just moving forward for that continuity, building all those things moving forward.
And also a reason why it is imperative we get to 6 wins and become bowl eligible. This weekend's game, if anybody thinks this weekend's game doesn't matter against Arkansas, this might be the biggest game of the season, because getting bowl eligible after this game is going to be way harder than if we don't do it this week. It is super critical, to your point, because guess what can't happen if we aren't bowl eligible? DJ Lagway cannot come in and practice with the scout team for the bowl game. He is not eligible to do so because our season will be over and there will be no more practice until we get into spring camp. So it is vital that we get to 6 wins. After that, honestly, it's all gravy at this point. And frankly, we're probably not going much over it anyway, right? We've talked about it. But at the end of the day, getting to 6 wins is critical for the class that's coming in and the continued building of this team. We've got to do it. This is frankly a must win this weekend, but again, something we'll talk more about. So with that, let's move it on and talk a little Pride of the Sunshine. Why don't you get us started on that there, sir?
And 4. Okay. So Pride of Sunshine is something that I really enjoy talking about, just because of what they're trying to do, what Billy's trying to do to change the state of this program, this team, all these players as young men. So the thing I'm going to touch on actually first is, and we made a mention of it earlier, is the energy. I felt like player disposition, particularly, especially going into that second quarter and all that second quarter, I've never seen this team look so dejected after getting punched in the mouth. Because I feel like even at Kentucky, ending with Utah, with some of the hits, some of the haymakers that they gave, we were still able to come back and bounce back. And I know the score doesn't indicate a whole lot, but I just felt like from an energy standpoint, it wasn't there. From a player disposition standpoint, it wasn't there. A lot of helmets held low, right?
Yep.
So that's one thing I'll speak to. Outside of that, I hope people know this. Billy Napier has spent less than 2 calendar years in Gainesville. I think that is a very significant point. There are a lot of people out there who say this is Billy Napier's 3rd recruiting class. I would beg to differ. B, I know you beg to differ.
Yep.
When you look at when he landed in game, now granted, his staff was working in Louisiana before they left Louisiana, no problem. But when you look at what he's done, he's come in here to do, and what he is doing, and some of the comments that he made post game, which we'll get to, I feel like this is where, as much as I wanted, and a lot of Gator Nation wanted a massive upset, as much as we wanted a shock and awe, as much as we wanted to reclaim Jacksonville, it was just tough. You look at the era, right? You look at an era of what happened of Spurrier from 90 to 01. You look at the Zucker, right, to 04. You look at Meyer, 05 to 10. Muschamp, 11 to 14. McElwain till 17. And then Mullen up until 21, which of course we know he didn't finish the season. B, you mentioned it earlier. and I'm going to harp on it. I'm going to piggyback off you and echo that. There is nothing more critical, it seems like, to a program than recruiting. Recruiting
Yep.
has gotten tougher with NIL, right? Recruiting has gotten tougher with all the options that players have, the power that they have now. And I
Yep.
think, at the end of the day, spot on to Kirby for saying that at the press conference, because he's not wrong.
Nope.
What do we like to say? We like to look at film. We like to speak fact. We don't like to speak as much opinion. Yeah, there will be some opinion here or there, but just look at the raw numbers, look at the facts. And so what's interesting is to hear some of the things that he had to say. My positioning is a lot of youth, give him his time. $31 million buyout. I know a lot of people are saying he's got to go, the play calling, the this, the that. Folks, I get it. Less than 2 calendar years. He's got a lot to prove. After the third year, going into the fourth year, I have a feeling things are going to shift and turn and change, and we're going to get exactly what we need, whether it's an offensive play caller, whether it's going to be some really, really good recruiting classes that are in the top 5 right now. We're currently somewhere around third B, if you can confirm that. But
You are correct. Third.
I just feel like there's a lot more pride to come, and I'm going to leave it at that.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, definitely something to look forward to, and a really good point about Napier, right? And also another thing to keep in mind is of all the coaches you mentioned, right, prior, I don't know that anybody did as much damage to the culture of this team. In fact, I can very easily say that nobody did as much damage to the culture of this team as what the Mullen regime did. I won't put it all on Mullen's head, but
Yeah.
he allowed it. He allowed it, right? He allowed some of that culture in there. We've kind of alluded to this before. There was a really great article that had a full behind the scenes on this. And man, it spoke volumes to just the horrific, toxic culture that was going on with Florida football during Mullen's tenure. Not good things, man. Not good things. And I'll leave it at that. But it was bad. And you have to overcome that. You have to turn that all around. And I don't know that there's a harder assignment than Napier has. The talent gap is difficult, but that can be overcome, right, with a couple years of good recruiting, right, which hopefully we're going to get here. But the culture, that stuff doesn't just change overnight, right? That takes time, to your point. So I will echo the same point that you had to start this. Did not like the morale that I saw. In fact, I have similar words. They looked down and dejected in that second quarter after the failed fourth down, after the fumble, right? It did not look good. And the thing that
Yeah.
bugged me maybe as much as anything is Mertz has really been a leader in those situations. When he lost that fumble, you saw him just hang his head and bang the turf, and man, he was ticked off. But he didn't bounce back up and kind of go back in there and be like, "All right, shake it off." Like I didn't see that. Maybe it happened, but I
Right.
didn't see it. And that's
No.
something where Mertz has been really good about that stuff and being a really good leader and everything else. And it looked like he was just kind of like, damn, and that's just kind of where his mindset went for whatever reason. And I mean, obviously there was a reason, but again, he's been pretty good about shaking that stuff off and getting back out there and leading this group. And I just didn't see that resolve in this game for whatever reason, which is it's interesting. Maybe it's just because of the recent history with Georgia, and they felt like, all right, there's nothing we can do now, which is probably true for the record, but you still don't want to see them play like that. So that's something that I really do think does have to get better. Also, as we've discussed, culture should be a constant, right? No matter the circumstances of the game. It really shouldn't matter. The culture should be the culture. You shouldn't need the game to go well to keep you motivated. You shouldn't need bulletin board material to get you motivated, right? We've talked about all these things. If your rationale is playing for your brothers and playing for your teammates and playing for your university and the pride that you want to show in doing that, that's all that should matter. So I don't know where we kind of lost our way on this game. Maybe it was because they prepped so hard. They had the bye week, they had the extra time, right? And then they get there and it didn't go their way, and they're just like, ah, crap, here we go again. And maybe that's all it was. I don't know, but something got in the way of the typical culture, of the typical resolve that we've seen from Napier teams thus far, really throughout. it was missing in this game to an extent, especially in that second quarter. So definitely not
Great
something I
point.
want to see have again. Thank you, appreciate that, and I really hope that's something that we don't see again going forward. I hope we get past that. I like what Mertz said after the game.
Yeah.
He said he guaranteed, that you're not going to see this, basically beat them twice, right? They're not going to keep their heads down and be, in a negative place. But he also didn't really deny that they got there. So it's kind of a mixed bag with that answer, right? Like I liked it in one
Yep.
sense, but then in another sense, I'm like, well, okay, but where was that attitude during the game, right? So we'll see what happens going forward, but hopefully we avoid that pretty much for the rest of the year. I don't really care what happens. That's what you just don't want to see. So hopefully we don't see it again. All right. So with that, we will move on to officiating. Little move back, you suck. And I've only got one thing here. My only kind of call out for the refs in this game, did not like the review that put us in that fourth down situation that we then, of course, did not get with the trick play and everything else. But that play was called a first down on the field. And here comes Kirby running down. Oh, he's short, he's short, he's short. And then they go and review it because it was a quarter break, of course. Convenient timing. Love how those things work out for us. And you go look at it, and I'll tell you what, man, I did not see an angle. I watched all the replays that were on TV. Now, I know very good and well there can be other replay angles, right, that are not shown on TV, especially when you have a quarter break, right, and all those commercials. It is very possible the officials saw an angle that I did not see, right? Very possible that happened. However, having said that, I would have liked to have seen it because you need indisputable video evidence to overturn a call on the field. And all the angles I saw, that didn't happen. Not a chance was that indisputable. Was it close? Do I think ultimately it's very possible that the ball was there and that was the correct call that they ended up making? Absolutely. But I sure as heck didn't see the camera angle that shows me that was definitive proof that it was correct. And that's what you have to have. Indisputable video evidence. That's the terminology, right? There was no indisputable video evidence that I saw at all. So that one really kind of ticked me off. Now, does that matter? Do we win the game because of that? No. Do we even, sustain that drive for much longer? Who knows, right? But it is a significant play because it ends up resulting in, of course, the turnover on downs. So didn't love that call based on what I saw. But again, can't know for sure what the official saw. I know you can't either. But at the end of the day, that's one. That one's really, that's a little tough to swallow. So that's all I got. What are your thoughts on the refs in this one?
Overall, not too bad. This particular Whitecap for the SEC, he's called some pretty big games, and he's inconsistent at best. But the one thing that really was frustrating about that call in the first quarter is when you look at, and I get it, multiple angles, sure. Whatever angle they saw, I would love to have access to, because every replay that I saw, everything I Googled, everything I YouTubed, everything that I looked at showed, and I get it, his leg was coming down, but at the same time, the nose of that ball was right there at that line. And I love how Kirby was playing line judge. That was great. I loved it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And like
loves a word, sure.
Yeah. And like you said, the whole issue with it being a TV timeout, right? A quarter timeout, which was just significant. But the thing that I want people to understand is, as he is lunging and his left leg, because he's lunging right to the left, his left leg is coming down, his shin is almost down, and his knee is not quite down yet. You see that now the ball is covered up, right? His left arm. And where that yellow mark is on TV, that ball is over. And that's the thing about the replay, right? It's indisputable evidence. Whatever angle they had, it had to have been disputable. So it's like, why couldn't we have seen that? Why couldn't Gene Steratore have showed us that on the air? Come on, Gene. Let's go here.
Right. Let's go.
Whatever. That is what it is, right? And the other thing too is towards the end there, as far as the last touchdown, it would be nice if Treon Webb could have gotten himself a touchdown, because obviously Treon, that's his hometown.
Yep.
But there is an example where his arm, and trust me, I wanted the kid to get a touchdown, but way short, and they called that a touchdown. I get it. They reviewed it. They called it back. But way short.
Yep. That one they got right.
Forearm, leg, right? So, anyways, that is what it is. So, again, they're human eyes, reactions, a little bit slow. They're gonna miss things, but I think the main thing is consistency. The other thing that I'm not sure if anyone caught this. This was Georgia's sixth possession, about 5.5 to 6 minutes left to go in the second quarter. Their running back, again, great running back. He had a great game. He busted through the middle, and I'll tell you what, there is an umpire right in the middle of the field. Right in the middle of the field. I'd say 2 to 3, maybe 5 yards at most away. And they missed 2.5 face masks on us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, they did.
Right?
Yep.
It was like a swipe, a side swipe, a 2 fingers, a 1 finger, a full thing, but so anyways, was the officiating terrible? No. Was it almost like the Tennessee game where it went mainly in our favor, or no, it wasn't that bad. But again, the main thing is that, and again, I'm not trying to say like we know with team sports, you don't want to peg a win or a loss or on one play. But again, I feel like that particular first down play, when you look at the series of events that happened after it and the air that came out of that stadium for Orange and Blue, it
fair.
was definitely a definitive moment, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. The mode switch on that was huge, right? It was huge. So that's a very good point. All right. Well, but yeah, nice to see an improvement overall in officiating, though I will call that out. We've been very critical of the refs the last 2 weeks, and frankly, rightfully so. But so it was nice to see them get a little better this week. So I will say that. All right. So let's head to the wrap up here. I have a quote that I want to start the wrap up with. So I know we normally just talk about the state of the team or where we think they're going, but I really wanted to put this in. Very interesting quote from Billy today. I'm going to read it directly so that I don't mess it up. And this is something he said to open up the press conference today. And I find it very, very interesting. So I want to get your thoughts as well. So here is your quote. I think ultimately, when you have time to look at the film a little bit closer, some of the same things I said after the game, I feel strongly about today. I think it just makes me realize, and I think we all know this, you guys obviously cover our team, but everything matters. All parts of what we do contribute to the final result. I think really for me, it causes me to double down on kind of what we believe from an evaluation standpoint, recruitment standpoint, having continuity in our system relative to the concepts that you run, scheme, adjustments. I do think there is a development component to that as well. So there is a lot being said there without being said. So I will start and just give you some quick thoughts on this. I think it is evident from what Napier is saying there that he feels that their talent acquisition process, right, their recruiting, their development of this team from a personnel standpoint still has a long way to go. And I think that's important to keep in mind because this is a guy who clearly has shown, in my opinion, one of his best things and his staff's best traits is their talent evaluation. So when you look at that and then you say, okay, he's saying what we're seeing on film, what we're seeing on the field, it's not there yet because the group of personnel we have isn't there yet. Whether that comes from the talent that's been brought in, which granted, some of that is his own talent, but some of it is not, as we've discussed, right? And then you look at also just the development and, as he said, continuity of the system. I think this is where you see Napier seeing the plan still being in action, right? This is a slow burn. This is not it's going to turn around tomorrow. And frankly, I don't know how it could have when you look at what we've already talked about, the culture, where it was when he came in, the recruiting, where the player, right, personnel was when he came in. I don't see how you just snap your fingers and turn that thing around. Maybe if you're like the best play caller and coordinator ever, right? But then what are you doing to continue to build that? Because you can be great and kind of fixing what's broke, if you will, in the standpoint of, plays and things that are going on. But ultimately, you still got to have better talent than what we currently have. And again, we're working on it. It's coming. This class looks fantastic. Just hold it together and sign it up. right? Once they're signed and they get in here and we get to work, man, the future is still bright. I don't see anything other than the question about him being a play caller. That is the one kind of thing that hangs out here. But after that, I don't see anything that doesn't look really promising for the future of Florida football. So, if there's one takeaway you want to take from another Georgia beatdown, which God knows nobody wanted, I think the great thing that we can still do is look forward, look into the future and what the next year or two or even three is going to hold. Now, I'm not saying you got to wait 3 years for it to get better. I'm saying that it's going to get better and it starts next year and continues beyond that if we keep things going the way they're going currently. So that's what I got from what he said. I liked your take as well. Please share your thoughts on that with me if you would.
Yeah. So the other thing that, and first of all, really good for calling that out, because honest to goodness, I think if we had a lot more time, we can extrapolate so much more out of that quote, right?
Yeah, for
But at the
sure.
end of the day, when you look at it, it just boils down to the personnel. And go back to the word you mentioned earlier and that we've mentioned a lot, culture, right? That's important. But the other thing is cleanup, as far as what he's had to do regarding the last regime. So, having that been said, I really keyed in on the fact of personnel. There are certain players in his system, there are certain positions that aren't there, that aren't filled, that aren't ready to fully unleash what he has floating around in that head of his. Okay. The other thing that was really important after that was the other thing he mentioned about there's a set of values, there's a character that you like your team to play with, there's a chemistry, there's a togetherness. All these things are important for me. I think for me, walking off that field on Saturday, that's how I felt, right? And the other thing that he mentioned, the key thing for us here is what matters most today. I think, regardless of what's happening in the past, I do think that this is a group, every single detail, really challenging all parts of the organization to do their best work is what we need moving forward. We need to be operating at our best, firing on all cylinders. We need to lead our people, we need to impact our people, and get consumed with preparing for the game. So, outside of that, B, I think I'm going to steal a line from you here, but basically what you said earlier, I think sums it up, is when I get my people, my players where I need them to be in this system functioning, watch out.
Yep.
Watch out. All
Yep.
the naysayers, all the Monday morning quarterbacks, all the people who, play callers, this, that, and the other. When I get everything the way that I want it, the way that I need it, the way that it should be, the way that I've envisioned, and culture is being led, and this team is playing for each other, but not to mention has an extreme level of talent,
Yep.
just wait.
Yep. Just wait.
That's what I hear.
Exactly, and that's what I hear too. And I love that, for the record. I think that's got a ton of promise and a ton of potential for the future. Now, does it work out? I don't know. But the point is, we don't know yet. So all this talk about Napier's got to go and this, that, and the other, pump the brakes, Gator Nation. Pump the brakes. I know we don't like to not win every game. I get it. I feel the same way. I hear you. But at the end of the day, this was always going to be a turnaround that was going to take some time, and it still needs more. Now, I'll draw a line in the sand at some point, but we're not there yet. So there you go. Really good stuff there.
Fair.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. I think really
I
valid
dig it.
points in regards to this. Just a really interesting comment. So at the end of the
Oh
day,
yeah.
just kind of wrapping up where we are right now. We already mentioned it. This week is just critical. It's a critical week. We have got to win this game, in my opinion. It is by far our best chance to hit the 6-win mark, get bowl eligible, get Lagway on campus in December, get him practicing early. These are the things that we need to see. And for the record, I expect the team to bounce back accordingly. and work to build a little momentum going into the next week at LSU. I really think we're going to see it. I love that it's a home game. That's super helpful. Obviously, we're better at home in almost every statistical category, right? So these are the things. And then, of course, Arkansas has been struggling. Remains to be seen what happens with their new offensive coordinator. That is a change that is coming for us that we don't necessarily know what to expect, but we'll just have to see what happens. And at the end of the day, when you fire your offensive coordinator in the middle of the season, it's usually not a good sign about the direction your team is going, right? So I really think that, we have a very good chance to win this game. We should win this game, and I think we will win this game. So that's the upside that I think we have going into Arkansas this week. So where are you at with the team as a whole, real quick here before we get into keep it or pitch it?
So Arkansas is 2-6, right? But
Yep.
Look at their losses. Look at how close the average margin of loss.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a valid point.
So not to be understated. Secondly, when you look at their quarterback preseason, number one quarterback in the SEC, right? So obviously Jefferson's had a rough year. He's had some setbacks. He could be poised for a breakout. I don't know. Outside of that, I really enjoy the fact that we're back in the swamp. Like you said, home turf. We do a lot of great things there. And I'm really excited to see the unveiling of the black unis.
Yeah,
And
buddy, and nothing like that noon time slot to help us set it off. Love it.
I'm telling you, man. But overall, yeah, I know. But overall,
Killer.
good things. The saluting those who serve game. I love the fact that underneath the nameplates, there's going to have different sayings that are military based. And so just looking forward to that. I think it's going to be good energy despite what just happened this past Saturday.
Absolutely. I agree. And definitely looking forward to those black jerseys. I think it's a cool thing that we're doing. I love that we're breaking it out. So with that, let's switch it over to keep it or pitch it for this week against Arkansas. So quick recap of last week. I won't go through and read them all. I went 2-1. Randy was 1-2. If you remember, we actually agreed on 2 last week. The one we disagreed on, obviously, we had a difference in the scoring there. So record for the year is now 12-8 and 8-12. We keep going up or moving in the same increments every week, so that's kind of interesting. So it ain't over yet, but I am widening the gap just slightly. So we'll see what happens as we continue through. So having said that, let's get into it. Number 1, keep it or pitch it for this week. Arkansas is ranked 71st in the country, nothing too impressive, in scoring offense at 26.5 points per game. The defense will have a get-right game at home and allow no more than 17 points to Arkansas. So 17 or less. What you got? Keep it or pitch it?
Keep.
Nice.
I really think they're going to bounce back strong.
What? Nice. Okay. Yep. I know. I am the same, and I think the same thing. I think the defense is going to bounce back here. Like I said, I think they'll have a get-right game. That's why I put it in there, and yeah, I'm keeping this one. I think we do it. So good stuff. All right. We're 1 for 1 agreeing again. A little weird. We'll see what happens here. All right. Next, Arkansas ranks 120th. So even worse than South Carolina was when we played South Carolina a couple weeks ago in sacks allowed. 120th in sacks allowed in the country at 3.88 a game, essentially 4 a game. So UF will do a better job of getting pressure and force at least 4 sacks during this weekend's game. Will get them to their average number of 3.88. Keep it or pitch it, sir.
Pitch. It's going to be 3 or less.
I'm right there with you. I'm pitching it. Look out.
What?
I know. Weirdness. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I think we'll do a better job. I think we will get more pressure. I think their O-line is pretty bad, but I don't have enough faith, unfortunately, in that D-line to actually get home. I think the hurries number could be high, but the actual sacks number, I'm with you, 3 or less. I'm right there. I think it probably will be 3, but we'll see. All right, last but not least, let's see if we go 3 for 3 and actually agree. That'd be crazy. Arkansas defense is ranked 31st in the country with 333 yards per game allowed. Actually, not so bad. That's not a terrible number. UF will generate over 400 yards of total offense this weekend. Keep it or pitch it.
Oh, I'm keeping that, dude. I think we're going to come out with a vengeance. I think we're going to be clicking on all cylinders. It is the swamp. It is salute to those we serve. Well, I think we touch 500.
Well, we're not gonna change the gap between us this week because I'm keeping it as well. I think we go north of
Wow.
400 in this game. I think you might be right. We might even touch five. Though the defense has been decent, so I don't know about five, but I think we come out strong this week. I think this might be the best game you're going to see overall this season thus far. I think it has the potential to be that. I really do. Just knowing how this team plays at home, knowing what they're coming off, knowing how they, wanted to play this week and didn't. I think they come out with an edge. And I think they really put it to them on both sides of the ball. So we'll see what happens. But I tell you, the line right now is at 6.5. Seems like easy money. I won't bet it, but if anybody out there likes betting, it seems like easy money to me. I think we're going to win by more than that. That's my take right now. But we'll see what happens. You never know. And they played a lot of close games, so maybe that's why the line's a little lower. And I do understand that they have played a lot of close games this year, like you said. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. With that, I think we are going to wrap this sucker up. Once again, thank you to everybody for listening. Really, I personally really enjoyed this show, despite the circumstances by which we have to bring it to you coming off that loss. I think it's
Yeah.
been really good to get all this stuff out and really talk about it. And then, I think I know I speak for Randy when I say we continue to really enjoy doing this and look forward to talking to you again next week. One thing we did want to say, something we haven't really mentioned is timing. We do try to record this every Monday night. We're pretty set on that. Obviously, last week got messed up because I was sick. But ultimately, barring some kind of illness for one of us or something that just prevents us from doing it, we pretty much record this every Monday night and post it up right there after accordingly. So, for anybody that wants to know exactly when that's happening, that would be the timing for us. So, again, appreciate everybody for listening. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
You said it best, B. All good. Thank you, Gator Nation. All the best.
Absolutely, absolutely. Same here. And with that, wherever you are and whenever you may be listening, thank you for taking the time, and we'll see you around, Gator Nation.